They came from the darkness between the stars for thousands of years. The Drixari Empire had ruled half the galaxy. They had fought many wars, crushed many enemies, and burned many worlds. To them, war was a game they had already mastered. And then they saw Earth. It began with a weak signal, drifting through space. It was not a war cry. It was not a threat. It was music. A strange, soft sound carried on invisible waves, human music. The Drixari laughed when they heard it. They thought it was nothing but the song of a primitive race, another young species. The Drixari High Commander said, "They will make good slaves." A small scout ship was sent to investigate. Its mission was simple: enter the system, scan the planet, return with data. The Drixari had done this many times before. No one expected trouble. The scout ship entered Earth's orbit and began its work. It saw oceans like endless mirrors. It saw green lands and white clouds. It saw cities shining at night like constellations on the ground. But then, something strange happened. The ship's captain reported a faint radar contact, fast, moving from the dark side of the planet. Before he could react, the contact was gone. Seconds later, alarms screamed. Unknown weapons tore through the Drixari, hull like paper. In less than a minute, the scout ship was gone. No distress signal, no survivors. The High Council was confused. Perhaps it was an accident, one elder said. But deep inside, some Drixari began to feel something they had not felt in centuries: unease. Still, they sent another ship. This one was larger, with heavy armor and more weapons. It too vanished. The Drixari tried again. A fleet of 3 destroyers was sent to Earth. They never returned. Rumors spread through the Empire. Whispers in the spaceports, shadows in the halls of power. A word began to take shape: humans. No one knew much about them. They had no grand fleets crossing the stars. They had no ancient empires. And yet, something about them was different. The Drixari finally found a recording from the first scout ship, recovered from drifting wreckage. It showed a blur of black metal cutting through space, weapons flashing. No Drixari had seen such speed before. The attacker's hull bore no alien symbols, only a small blue and white flag. And a single word: Earth. The High Commander called an emergency meeting. "This is impossible," one general said. "They are too young, too new to space travel." But another general frowned. "Perhaps they are exactly what makes them dangerous. They do not follow the old rules." Still, the Drixari were arrogant. They decided to make an example of Earth. If humans were bold enough to attack Drixari ships, they would pay the price. A war fleet was assembled, 10 massive warships, each one able to destroy a city from orbit. The fleet jumped into the Sol system, their weapons ready. They expected fear. They expected surrender. Instead, they were greeted with silence. Earth's orbit seemed empty. No defense ships, no fighters, nothing. The Drixari laughed again. Perhaps the earlier attacks had been luck. Perhaps the humans had used all their tricks. The commander ordered the fleet closer. That was when the stars began to move. From behind the shadow of the moon, dozens of human ships emerged. They were smaller than Drixari warships, but faster, far faster. They did not charge blindly. They moved like predators, circling, waiting for the perfect moment. When they struck, it was with terrifying precision. Missiles tore into engines. Railguns punched holes through armor. Human pilots moved like they had been born in space. The Drixari fought back, but their fleet was cut apart in minutes. Only 2 ships escaped, broken, limping back to the Empire. The survivors told the same story. "They do not fight like us. They do not fight like anyone. They do not give warnings. They do not take prisoners. And they enjoy it." The galaxy did not yet know the name of the war that had just begun. But soon, it would tremble at the sound of it, because the humans had been seen for the first time, and they had decided they would not kneel. The Drixari Council chamber was built to inspire fear. Tall black walls rose high above the floor. Columns of glowing crystal pulsed with the energy of captured stars. Banners of conquered worlds hung from the ceiling like trophies. On this day, the banners did not feel like triumph. They felt like ghosts watching from above. 10 Drixari warships had gone to a small blue planet. 8 were gone, to limped home, barely able to move. their hulls ripped apart. The survivors refused to speak of what they saw at first. Some shook with shame. Others stared into nothing, their black eyes wide as if they still heard the guns at. Last, the captain of the flagship spoke. They came from the shadows, he said. They struck once, and they struck true. They did not miss. Silence fell over the council. For the Drixari, losing one ship was an insult. Losing 8 in minutes was unthinkable. Impossible, an elder hissed. They are a young race. Barely into the stars, the captain shook his head. They move like no one else. They learn faster than we can think. Every weapon we fired, they found a way to counter it. They knew what we would do before we did it. Laughter echoed from the far side of the room. General Corrin, commander of the outer fleets, leaned forward on his throne-like chair. His teeth glinted under the chamber lights. So they are clever. Clever does not win wars. Strength does. He turned to the council. I say we crush them now, before the story of this shame spreads. But the room did not agree. Some feared that attacking too soon would only bring more disaster. Others whispered that the humans might not be alone. What if other, hidden allies stood behind them? While the Drixari argued, something else happened far away, on the colony world of Vexor Prime. A trading station received a strange signal. It was human, but not music this time. It was a message. 3 simple words, repeated again and again. We are coming. The station's master tried to trace it, but the signal bounced between relays, looping through dead satellites and abandoned ships. By the time they located its source, it was already gone. When news reached the council, panic sparked for the first time. No one outside the Drixari had ever dared to send a threat directly into their space. Corrin smiled coldly. Good. Let them come. They will find we are not afraid. That night, Drixari spies brought new intelligence. Humans had built a fleet, small compared to Drixari numbers, but their ships were different. Each one seemed unique, adapted to a purpose, and they were not staying near Earth. They were moving, fast. 2 weeks later, a human fleet appeared at the edge of Drixari territory, not near a military outpost, not near a fortress. They appeared above a peaceful colony moon, a place with no soldiers, no weapons, only civilians. The Drixari commander there sent a desperate call for help. The humans answered first. When the Drixari reinforcements arrived hours later, the colony was silent. Buildings still smoked. The streets were empty. Not a single living soul remained. The few signs of battle were precise and surgical. Power stations destroyed. Communication towers cut in half. Every ship in the colony's small port gone. It was not random destruction. It was a message. They are not just fighting us. One admiral whispered to the council when the report came in. They are studying us, learning us. The Drixari response was swift. An attack force of 20 ships was sent to hunt the humans down. They searched system after system, finding only fragments. An empty human outpost here, a wrecked supply ship there. Every clue led them deeper into empty space, as if the humans were pulling them forward like prey leading a hunter. On the 12th day of pursuit, the Drixari force finally found them. 8 human ships, drifting quietly near a small asteroid belt. The Drixari moved in, confident. Weapons locked. The humans didn't run. They didn't hide. They waited. When the Drixari fired, the humans didn't return fire immediately. Instead, they split apart in impossible patterns, vanishing into the rocks. The Drixari followed, and the trap was sprung. Hidden turrets on the asteroids came alive, spitting streams of molten metal. Mines hidden in the rock fields exploded under Drixari hulls. Human ships darted in and out like wolves, each strike tearing another Drixari vessel apart. By the time the survivors limped home, only 5 of the 20 Drixari ships remained. And the humans, not one ship lost. This time, the council chamber was not filled with argument. It was filled with fear. For the first time in living memory, the Drixari faced an enemy that did not simply resist. They hunted back. An enemy that did not wait for defense, but brought the war to their heart. And somewhere, in the dark space between stars, a human commander looked at a map of Drixari worlds and began to plan the next strike. Drixari space was not quiet anymore. Once, their patrols moved slowly between worlds, confident, lazy, knowing no enemy could reach them. Now, every ship traveled with shields at full power. Every captain scanned the dark twice, every crew jumped. At Shadows, the humans had done something no one expected. They had made the hunters feel like prey. In the hidden depths of Drixari Command, the War Council studied every battle report. They saw the same pattern in every fight. Humans attacked fast, vanished faster, and always left wreckage behind. But there was something else, something no one could explain. In one battle, humans used missiles with Drixari tracking systems. In another, they used Drixari-style plasma cannons, weapons that had never left Drixari space. Somehow, after every encounter, the humans came back with new weapons, weapons that belonged to their enemies. They are stealing from us, one commander said, his voice low. Not stealing, the High Commander corrected. They are learning, adapting. The truth was worse than they imagined. On the far edge of space, human fleets collected wreckage from every battle. In dark shipyards hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids, human engineers tore the alien technology apart, learned it, rebuilt it, and sent it back into battle the same week. To the humans, war was not just survival, it was opportunity. In a cold, steel war room deep inside a human flagship, Captain Arden studied a star map filled with glowing red markers. Each one was a Drixari world. He tapped 3 of them. "We take these next," he said simply. His officers nodded. No one asked about the danger. They had stopped asking long ago. The first target was a weapons depot orbiting a dead moon. It was guarded by 6 Drixari destroyers. By Drixari standards, it was an unbreakable wall. The humans broke it in 12 minutes. The attack began with silence. Human ships cut their engines, drifting into range like ghost shadows. Then, without a word, the blackness lit up with railgun fire. Drixari shields folded under the precision strikes. Engines exploded. Ships spun out of control. Before the Drixari could recover, boarding ships latched onto the depot. Human Marines stormed inside, wearing armor scavenged from past battles, their rifles humming with stolen alien energy cells. The fight inside lasted less than 5 minutes. When the humans left, they didn't destroy the depot. They emptied it. Every weapon, every crate of ammunition, every scrap of tech, gone. To the Drixari, it was more than a loss. It was humiliation. Days later, another battle report arrived. This time, it was worse. The Drixari's own weapon designs were being used against them, but better, faster, deadlier. Plasma cannons recharged in half the time. Missiles tracked with impossible accuracy. Shields resisted weapons they had never blocked before. The council was in chaos. "They will surpass us," one elder admitted, her voice trembling. "They already have," another whispered. Still, the Drixari clung to pride. They assembled their largest fleet yet, 30 warships, backed by carriers and bombers, and set a trap. They spread false reports of a weak supply convoy near the border, hoping to lure the humans in. The humans came, but not the way the Drixari expected. Instead of charging at the convoy, the human fleet appeared behind the Drixari trap, cutting off their retreat before the fight even began. How they knew the plan, no one could explain. Some Drixari suspected spies. Others whispered darker theories, that humans could think like Drixari. Even better than Drixari themselves, the battle that followed was not just brutal, it was surgical. Human ships moved in pairs, one attacking, one shielding, switching roles in perfect rhythm. Every time a Drixari captain thought they had a chance, a new human tactic appeared, breaking their defense apart. Halfway through the fight, the humans revealed their newest creation, a weapon no one had seen before. It fired a beam of pure energy that passed through Drixari shields as if they didn't exist. In seconds, the largest Drixari carrier was split in half. By the end, 24 Drixari ships were gone. The rest scattered into hyperspace, chased by human missiles until they vanished. When the wreckage was counted, Drixari leaders made a grim discovery. The human fleet had taken almost no damage. It was not a lucky win, it was domination. Across the galaxy, the story spread. To some alien races, Humans became a warning to others. They became an opportunity for alliance, for survival. But in the halls of Drixari power, one thing became clear. This was not a war they could control anymore. Far from the Drixari homeworld, in the cold light of distant stars, Captain Arden stood at the viewport of his flagship. Below him, another Drixari outpost burned. He spoke quietly to his second officer. Every weapon they have will be ours. Every world they own will be ours. We don't stop. And in the darkness, the humans kept building, kept learning, kept sharpening the blade they had become. Because for them, there was no going back. War was not just a battle to win. It was the only language the galaxy understood, and humanity was learning to speak it better than anyone ever had. The sky over Drixari Prime burned red, not from sunset, but from fire. For generations, the Drixari homeworld had been untouched by war. Its cities stood like monuments to power, its towers reaching so high they cut through clouds. Children played in the shadow of war statues, never knowing fear. Now, those same streets ran empty. Sirens howled. The statues lay broken in the dust. It began with a single shadow, a small human ship, no bigger than a Drixari shuttle. It slipped past orbital patrols, too fast to catch. At first, no one understood why it was there. Then the ship split into dozens of smaller craft, each vanishing into the city sky. Moments later, the explosions began. Power plants, weapon factories, command centers. Every vital point struck at the same time. It was not random destruction. It was precision, the kind only an enemy who had studied you could deliver. In the council chambers, panic had replaced pride. The High Commander slammed his claws against the table. "This is our heart. How did they get here?" An officer, pale and shaking, answered without meeting his eyes. "They were inside our supply convoys, disguised. We let them in." The commander's silence was worse than his anger. Down in the smoking streets, Drixari soldiers fought to push the humans back. But these were not the same humans they had faced in space. These were ground troops, silent, relentless, their armor patched with Drixari plates, their weapons a mix of human steel and alien firepower. They moved in small teams, each one knowing exactly where to go, exactly who to kill. In the middle of the chaos, a Drixari squad captured one of them. The human's visor was cracked, blood running down his cheek. Still, he smiled. "You're too slow," he said in a language the Drixari had never heard. But somehow, they understood the meaning. The prisoner was taken to a holding cell. Hours later, the cell was empty. No one had seen him leave. The only thing left behind was a knife, made from Drixari armor. Across the galaxy, other Drixari worlds began to fall, not to massive invasions, but to sudden, surgical strikes. Entire cities went dark overnight. Supply lines vanished. Refueling stations exploded. Without warning. In one mining colony, workers awoke to find human banners hanging from the highest towers. By the time Drixari troops arrived, the humans were gone, leaving only a message burned into the walls: "We take what we want." The psychological damage was worse than the physical losses. Soldiers began refusing to patrol at night. Civilians whispered about the ones in the dark, human ghosts that could appear anywhere. One captured alien officer told a council investigator, "They don't fight for land. They don't fight for glory. They fight because they want you gone. All of you." The council's military minds tried to understand. Drixari war tradition was built on numbers and strength, overwhelming an enemy until they broke. But the humans didn't fight that way. They didn't match strength with strength. They attacked where you were weakest, not where you expected. And when you tried to hit back, they were already somewhere else, cutting into another vein of your empire. Desperation drove the council to call for allies. Envoys were sent to other alien empires, offering trade, technology, anything for military support. Most refused. Some didn't even answer. Why? Because the humans had already spoken to them first. And their message was simple: stay out of our way. In the outer colonies, Drixari refugees told stories of human soldiers who fought without pause, who didn't retreat even when outnumbered. One miner swore he saw a human continue fighting after being shot twice. moving forward like nothing had happened. "They don't stop," he said, his voice breaking. "They don't care about dying. That's not how war is supposed to be." The Empire's outer defenses crumbled, not because the humans destroyed every ship, but because Drixari crews abandoned them. Ships were found adrift, their captains missing, their logs empty except for a single entry: "They're here," and somewhere beyond the reach of Drixari sensors. In a black-walled command room aboard the human flagship, Captain Arden read the latest reports. He saw the panic. He saw the fractures forming in the enemy's heart. He knew the moment was coming. "They think we've hurt them," he said to his officers. "They don't understand. We've only been testing them." In the galaxy's dark corners, other races began to watch more closely, some in silence, some in fear, some in hope. Because now it was clear humanity wasn't just winning battles. They were dismantling an empire from the inside, and they were enjoying every second of it. The war no longer had a front line. It was everywhere. Every star system in Drixari space felt the shadow of humanity. Ships vanished without distress calls. Communications went silent for days at a time. Colonies awoke to find their defense grids hacked and locked open, as if inviting an attack. It had been 3 years since the first human strike. For the Drixari, it felt like a lifetime. Entire sectors were abandoned. Worlds that had flown the Drixari banner for centuries now stood empty, stripped of people, power, and pride. The humans didn't conquer in the old way. They didn't plant their flags and demand surrender. They hit hard, took what they wanted, and disappeared into the dark. When they returned, it was somewhere else. Somewhere the Drixari thought was safe. In the surviving cities, propaganda filled the skies. Bright holoscreens told civilians the war was almost over, that victory was close. But no one believed it anymore. Even the children whispered the same story before sleeping: "The humans are coming." The Drixari tried to fight back. They built new fleets, faster ships, stronger weapons. But the humans always seemed to know. Every ambush ended with the ambushers destroyed. Every trap caught nothing but empty space. Some Drixari captains swore the humans had spies in their highest councils. Others feared something worse, that humans didn't need spies at all. On the icy mining world of Zorath, 1,000 Drixari soldiers guarded a vault of rare metals used for starship hulls. It was the most secure facility in the sector, buried deep under frozen mountains. One morning, the guards found the vault empty. The doors were still locked from the inside. Security logs showed nothing. No entry, no exit, only a single human coin left on the floor like a signature. Stories like that spread fast. And with every story, the fear grew. The war was no longer only about ships and weapons. It was about the mind. Every Drixari commander knew it. The humans were breaking them from the inside. In a distant system, 3 Drixari destroyers patrolled. A quiet trade route. It had been months since any attack there. The captains were almost relaxed, until a single human ship appeared at the edge of their sensors. It didn't move. It didn't answer hails. It just drifted, silent. The Drixari moved in cautiously. When they were close enough, the human ship exploded. The blast didn't destroy them. It blinded them, and in that short moment, a fleet of human ships dropped from hyperspace, surrounding them. The battle lasted 5 minutes. The Drixari never even saw who fired the final shots. Far away, alien diplomats watched the chaos unfold. Some called humanity a plague. Others called them the only true warriors left in the galaxy. But no one could ignore them. Even the oldest empires, who had avoided conflict for centuries, began to prepare their fleets, not to fight humanity, but to survive whatever came next. The Drixari begged for allies. Some agreed to help, sending small fleets to share the burden. But more often, these fleets returned home destroyed or didn't return at all. The Drixari began to suspect that humanity didn't just fight them. They were also sending messages to anyone who dared to stand with them. It was during this time that a small alien courier ship, carrying secret Drixari documents, was intercepted by human forces. The humans read everything. They didn't destroy the courier. They let it go. By the time it reached Drixari space again, Every world along its path had heard the truth. The Drixari were losing. In the cold dark of deep space, Captain Arden stood aboard his flagship, watching as another captured Drixari vessel was towed in. His officers waited for orders. He simply said, "Take it apart. Every piece, learn it, use it." The humans didn't just want to win. They wanted to grow stronger with every victory. And now, after years of fighting, their fleets were bigger, faster, and more dangerous than when the war began on the Drixari homeworld. The High Commander stared at a map of his empire. Red marks spread across it like blood. He knew the truth. They had no place left to hide. The humans would keep coming until nothing remained. But surrender was unthinkable. And so, the Drixari prepared for one last stand. Every surviving ship was called home. Every soldier recalled from the edges of space. If the humans wanted the heart of the Empire, they would have to tear it out in one final battle. Somewhere beyond the reach of Drixari sensors, in the shadow of a dead star, the human fleet waited. They had seen the buildup. They knew the final fight was coming, and they were ready, because for them, this wasn't just a war anymore. It was a hunt, and the prey had nowhere left to run. The sky above Drixari Prime turned black, not from nightfall, but from ships. The Drixari had gathered every vessel they still controlled: carriers, destroyers, heavy cruisers, even old warships pulled from museums and repaired just enough to fight. The formation stretched from the upper atmosphere to the edge of the system. It was the largest fleet the galaxy had seen in centuries. To the Drixari, it was the last hope dot in the control tower of the capital. The High Commander addressed his officers. "This is the end of it," he said. "We will crush them here, or we will fall. There will be no retreat. Not today. Beyond the edges of Drixari space, in the shadow of a frozen moon, the human fleet waited. Hundreds of ships sat in silent formation, hulls black as void, weapons powered down to avoid detection. Inside the flagship, Captain Arden stood over a map of the Drixari system. Every planet, every moon, every orbital station glowed faint red. "They've gathered everything," his second officer said quietly. "Good," Arden replied. "Then we don't have to hunt them anymore." The humans did not rush. They advanced slowly, letting Drixari sensors see them coming. The message was clear. We are not hiding. We are not afraid. When the two fleets finally faced each other, the silence before battle was suffocating. On every ship, human and Drixari alike, crews waited for the order that would decide the war. The Drixari fired first. Thousands of missiles and energy blasts crossed the void, filling space with blinding light. Human ships took the hits, shields straining, hulls burning, but they didn't break formation. Then, all at once, they struck back. It wasn't a single wave. It was everywhere at once. Small attack wings shot forward, weaving through enemy fire with impossible precision. Missiles detonated inside Drixari formations, tearing ships apart from the center. Railguns punched clean through heavy armor, splitting cruisers in half. But the Drixari didn't crumble. They held their ground, answering every strike with overwhelming firepower. For hours, the battle raged, ships dying on both sides, the blackness of space flashing with fire. Then the Drixari unleashed their secret weapon. From behind the main fleet, a colossal warship emerged, a fortress in space, larger than any human vessel. Its cannons fired beams of pure energy capable of tearing a battleship apart in one hit. Within minutes, 3 human cruisers were gone. The High Commander smiled for the first time in years. "This is where they break," he told. His crew, on the human flagship, Captain Arden studied the massive ship on his display. He didn't look afraid. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "We're doing it." That he spoke of had no official name. It wasn't in any military handbook. It was something human captains whispered about. Something so dangerous, it was never used unless the choice was victory or extinction. The order went out. Every damaged human ship, dozens of them, turned toward the giant Drixari fortress. Instead of retreating, they accelerated. The Drixari, confused, focused fire on them, tearing holes in their hulls. Still, the ships kept coming. And then, one by one, they rammed the fortress. The first impact shook the massive vessel but didn't stop it. The second cracked one of its shield emitters. The third tore open its hangar bays, igniting stored fuel. By the fifth and sixth collisions, the fortress's core was exposed. The last ship, an old destroyer barely holding together, hit it dead center. The explosion lit the system brighter than its sun. When the light faded, the fortress was gone. So were the human ships that had sacrificed themselves. The silence that followed was heavier than the battle itself. The Drexari fleet wavered. Some ships broke formation and fled. Others kept fighting, but their fire lost its rhythm, their movements turning desperate. The humans pressed forward. Every surviving ship fired without pause, cutting through Drexari lines like a blade through glass. By nightfall on Drexari Prime, the battle was over. The largest fleet in their history was nothing but drifting wreckage. On the planet's surface, civilians stood in the streets, staring up at the burning sky. They didn't cheer, they didn't cry, they only watched, knowing the war was no longer about victory or defeat. It was about survival. From orbit, Captain Arden looked down at the glowing cities below. He didn't order an invasion, not yet. Instead, he turned to his officers. "They'll remember today," he said quietly, "and they'll remember what we're willing to do." Far across the galaxy, the news spread faster than light, not of a victory, but of the way it was won. Other races didn't just see humans as strong anymore. They saw them as something far more dangerous, enemies who would burn their own ships if it meant taking you with them. And somewhere in the silence between stars, the galaxy trembled, because it finally understood. Humanity would stop at nothing. The war ended without a treaty. There was no ceremony, no handshake, no surrender signed. It simply stopped. The Drexari fleets were gone. The worlds they once ruled now floated in silence, stripped of their banners. What remained of their people scattered across the galaxy, hiding in colonies too small to notice. No human army landed to claim them. No flag was raised over conquered cities. The humans didn't need to. They had already taken what they wanted. Their fear, on distant alien worlds, the story spread faster than any ship could travel. It was told in markets, in shadowed bars, in whispered conversations where no one dared speak aloud. Children of a dozen species learned a new bedtime. Warning: if you are careless, if you are cruel, the humans will come. In the ruins of the Drexari homeworld, survivors picked through the rubble. Buildings stood half-burned. The once proud war statues lay in pieces. Here and there, scorch marks lined the streets where orbital fire had struck. At night, some swore they saw black shapes moving on the horizon, silent, watching. They never came close. They didn't need to. The Drexari had learned what it meant to be prey. Far from the broken cities, the human fleet hung in deep space. They did not celebrate. They did not speak of victory. The ships drifted like shadows, their dark hulls swallowing. Starlight. On the flagship, Captain Arden stood alone in the observation deck. Before him stretched the void, empty, endless, waiting. Behind him, the War Council waited for orders. What now? His second officer finally asked. Arden's eyes didn't leave the stars. "They'll rebuild," he said. "Not soon, not in our lifetime, but they'll try, and when they do, we'll be here." In the months that followed, the humans withdrew. From Drexari space, they didn't occupy. They didn't destroy what was left. They left everything, half-broken, bleeding, as a warning to anyone else who might be watching. And the galaxy was watching. Trade ships began to avoid human territory entirely. Even when it meant weeks of detours, explorers erased Earth's coordinates from their maps. Whole sectors fell silent when a human vessel entered orbit. No matter how small or unarmed it appeared, some alien leaders considered an alliance, not to fight humanity, but to make sure they never had reason to come. Others began building fleets in secret, convinced that the humans would eventually turn their eyes toward them. The humans noticed. They noticed everything. One quiet night on the colony world of Iruth, an alien trader woke to find a simple data chip left on his desk. No one had entered his locked home. The chip contained only a single star map and the location of his people's hidden fleet. No message, no threat, but he understood. Years passed, but the fear never faded. Every unknown signal on the scanners, every shadow that crossed the stars, every strange ship that refused to answer. Hails, they all carried the same question: are they here? In the forgotten corners of the galaxy, wrecks of Drixari ships still drifted, their hulls scarred with human weapons. No one touched them. They floated as silent monuments, not to the Drixari's fall, but to the price of crossing humanity. On Earth, life returned to something close to peace. The factories that had once built warships now built exploration vessels. Soldiers returned home, though many could not sleep without a weapon nearby. The war had changed them. It had changed everyone, yet the fleet was never fully disbanded. Ships stayed ready, weapons stayed sharp, and every year, without fail, the captains gathered at a hidden location somewhere in the black. It was there that Captain Arden, older now, stood before the assembled commanders. He looked at their faces, some scarred, some young, some carrying the quiet weight of what they had done. The galaxy will forget, he told them. They always do. They'll think we've grown soft. They'll test us again. He paused, letting the silence settle. When that day comes, we remind them. The commanders didn't cheer. They didn't need to. The oath was unspoken. But it was understood. Far away, in the dark beyond charted space, a Drixari child asked her grandmother if the humans were real. The old woman's eyes went distant. They are real, she whispered, and they are listening. The stars were quiet that night, too quiet, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath, because somewhere, hidden among the countless points of light, the humans were still watching, still waiting, and they would come again, not for land, not for wealth, not for revenge. They would come, because that is what they do.